Okay, let's talk Texas. So, this is a major example of manifest destiny. Some of you may be familiar with something called Six Flags over Texas. So, this is an amusement park. Go ahead and pause the video. See if you can come up with a list of all six flags that have flown over Texas. Right, and there are your answers. So these are all of the flags that have flown in Texas. So they were initially controlled by Spain, then Mexico. France comes in for a short time. The Republic of Texas. So at one point, Texas is its own country, which I always tell my relatives that live in Texas. I think that explains a lot about Texas. The American flag, and then the Confederate flag of the United States. So here's your background or your context here for what's happening. Mexico declares itself independent from Spain in 1821. We covered some of this with our Monroe Doctrine simulation. And then they start enticing American ranchers to come into Mexico, into this area that is now Texas, because it was very sparsely populated. And they get too much of a good thing here. So eventually, too many Americans are coming in. And so the Mexican government did set up a couple of requirements for these settlers when they're coming in. Number one, they have to convert to Catholicism. Vast majority of these ranchers coming in are Protestants, so they don't do that. And they say that they need to become Mexican citizens. They don't do that either. So already these American settlers are proving to be quite a bit of trouble. But pretty soon there are more Americans in Texas than there were Mexicans or Tejanos. And then the other problem here is that these ranchers are also bringing slavery with them. When Mexico had already declared slavery to be illegal. So this is a power struggle that's going on here. The other piece of this here is that they are making a lot of money. And so they're giving a lot of that money to the Mexican government as well. So they're in a bit of a tight spot. Okay, so that's the area that we're talking about there. So 1836, this is where you have the Alamo. So this is the battle happening between the Americans being led by Stephen Austin. There'll be other people in the mix here too. There'll be some Europeans in there, some Mexicans, but vast majority of people here are Americans. So they're going to be fighting back after the defeat at the Alamo. And this is when Texas gains its independence in 1836. So it becomes the Lone Star Republic. And they pretty quickly realize that's not really a place they want to be because now they're right smack in the middle of two relatively powerful countries. So they appeal to the United States to annex them, so to add them to the United States. So Martin Van Buren is president at this time, and he's not super enthused about this. Keep in mind our context, keep in mind Missouri, keep in mind our compromises that have been going on between our slave states and our free states. And Texas would upset all of that in a lot of different ways. Number one, you're going to have two more slave state representatives on the Senate. The population in Texas is also quite large already. So they're also going to wield a lot of power on the floor of the House of Representatives. So this is something that Van Buren just isn't really ready to do. This issue is going to be very politically divisive, and it's going to be the main reason why he is unable to secure his reelection. So this is going to open the door to James K. Polk, who we talked about previously. So it'll go back and forth for a while. So they just keep kind of kicking the Texas issue down the road. But eventually they will be annexed in 1845. So President Tyler, unbeknownst to the rest of Congress, is engaging with secret negotiations with the Houston government. And so eventually it will be annexed in 1845. And this will be one of the leading causes of the Mexican-American War because there's already quite a bit of tension between the United States and Mexico over this issue.